Hello again, everybody. In this video we're going to be continuing our checklist. We're moving into the Class 4 and Class 5 checklist. As a reminder, I did not make these checklists myself. I'm helping them spread along. Another gentleman named Zach Collier made them. I will list his videos below. Feel free to check them out. Go over and support Zach. I think what he's doing is a great thing. Kind of helping other boaters get educated out there and maybe make a little bit of standard out there boating. Some people might not like it. Some people might like it a lot. It's up to you. Feel free to leave it in the comment section below if you like it, or maybe you might not like it. It's up to you. So, moving into Class 4, they're going to be listed over here again, so feel free to follow as we go along. The biggest thing about Class 4 boating is you're going to be moving into that leadership example area where people are going to start looking at you as the leader and, as the example setter. So it might be a little bit more pressure than you used to. Hopefully you're making good choices out there, making good examples out there as well, and it's a position where a lot of eyeballs are gonna be looking at you, and you might feel the pressure, you might not feel the pressure, who knows. Another big thing is reading the river and using the river features to your advantage. Reading the river is something you'll be working on from the Class 2 position all the way up to Class 5. It's something you're always working on out there on the river, and using the features to your advantage is basically meaning, can you use a certain eddy to help turn your boat a certain way, or a hydraulic to help you move to a position in the river so you're not having to expend a lot of energy, or help using that hydraulic to get you out of another hydraulic which you don't really want to be in. Stuff like that. It's something that definitely takes a little bit longer to learn and practice, but it's a great skill to have out there on the river. Another big one, I'm talking about hydraulics and moving down the river, is the ability to push down a river. In Class 3 we talked about pulling away from an obstacle. In Class 4, definitely start pushing into stuff. It helps you definitely stay more oriented downstream, helps you scan the river as well, helps you look out for obstacles as you go. And it's not as strong as a pole stroke, but it's something that definitely has its advantages, and it's a good thing to practice when you're out there on the river. Staying in boat order is another big one. A lot of companies out there, especially the big multi-day companies, or even a lot of private trips, will actually put the more experienced guides in the front and the back positions, or basically, as I like to call them, the forerunner and the sweeper. The forerunner usually chooses the best ways to go down rapids, and the sweeper helps get people down the river. If there's an issue, the sweeper can help them. So that's why the more experienced guides are usually in the back of the pack. The novice guides are usually in the middle of the stuff. So, keeping their eyes open, following the front runner as they go down the river. It's just a great spot to have all the boats in, and one of the best spots to have them in as well. Another big one is recognizing dangers out there on the river. This goes along with recognizing wrapping scenarios. It's in my river, the river I work on, which is the Stillwater, there are a lot of bridges out there, a lot of big rocks at low water. So just recognizing where they are, recognizing what danger they bring to the table or bring to the river anyway, is something that's big. And once you recognize that, you can actually avoid it. So that's something when you're staying safe out there on the river. Another big one for safety stuff is setting downstream safeties for your friends, your buddies, your group, whatever. Once you go through a big rapid, find a spot that's close by in an eddy. Stop, wait for your other buddies to catch up. If you have to pick up the pieces, that's why you're there. That's why you've stopped. You set that safety. I've been in a situation where I was the first person through, and it's kind of scary going through there with knowing that you're the first person going through, and if you mess up or if something happens, well, you're on your own basically, which is not a good feeling to have. Another big one about setting safeties is being competent in rescue scenarios. It's rescue scenarios and some stressful stuff. It's easy to lose your head out there. You get the adrenaline pumping, and you just want to go. Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes it's not okay. And knowing the difference there and being competent in the situations, it might just be picking up pieces like I've said before, or it might go towards saving somebody's life, or saving gear out there on the river. So being competent in those scenarios and keeping a cool head is a biggie out there on the river. Another big one for rescue stuff is being an expert with your throw bags. Throw bags are tossed out there a lot, both in big forums, shopping. You see them out there a lot, and I don't think they get enough respect personally. I actually love, taking a good preseason toss into my bags. I'll break them out in the summer, throw them around, making sure I'm still accurate with them and I can still throw them as far as I can. And, restacking them, those ropes do get tied up in there sometimes. So, if you can toss a bag, pull it back to your restack, keep practicing that. Throwing a throw bag is definitely a skill that needs a lot of practice. You can't do it a couple of times and say you're good. It's a skill that needs a lot of practice and a lot of use before you get to be an expert in it. And I don't even feel like I'm close to being an expert in my bags. And I've thrown them quite a bit, so I got a lot of work to do out there. I covered this one already, but understanding wrap situations, where they are, how they happen, and avoiding them. So I covered that in dangers, but wraps are one of the scary things you hear about a lot. You hear people say wrap, and you instantly go, "Ew." It's not a big word. It's a word that a lot of novice boaters kind of cringe at, and the more experienced boaters go like, okay, might be a potential for a wrap here, so this is how we're gonna avoid it. So, big thing there. Another big one is being able to reflip your boat and climb into it. This goes along with being physically fit as well, but being able to climb back in your boat is a really big thing. Especially if you're just out there with your buddies, in situations where you're first one of the boat and you have a boat light enough where you can flip it, clamber back in it, and save your buddies as they go down the river, or the clientele as they go down the river. Being physically fit is definitely a big factor in this. There's been a few times where I felt I was not quite physically fit to get back in the boat. I floundered around in the river for quite a long while trying to get back in the boat quite a few times, not just one time. And it's definitely another scary situation where you really don't want to find yourself in. It's not fun, to say the least. Going back to kind of throw bags and equipment like that, just mastering your equipment. So I've got life jackets, I've got helmets, I've got my personal stuff, and always I'm learning new things about it, how to use it in some situations, how to not use it in some situations. So going out there and knowing your personal gear and mastering your gear. This goes from boats, kayaks, different ways of paddling that stuff. It's a biggie out there, especially when you're going to class 4, because you gotta get in situations where you have to know your stuff out there going down there anyway. Excuse my English, but it's something you gotta know and you gotta do out there as well. Going through equipment again is bringing a first aid bag and basically the boat repair bag as well. I have one entire dry bag devoted to that. I might go through that in another video once I kind of tidy it up a little bit. It's a mess, but bringing that stuff as you go down. In class 4, you're going to get banged up as a person. Your boat's going to get banged up. So having the tools, the equipment, and the know-how to patch people up, patch your boats back up, it's definitely a skill you need to have when you're going into class 4 boats, or class 4 rapids, excuse me. And it's just something you can also bring to the table and say, hey, I've got this stuff. I know that if you're applying for a river guide position, almost all companies are asking for at least a medical training of some sort as you go into there. So that's a tip, and remember that if you're trying to apply for a guiding position out there. We're gonna move into class 5 now. Class 4 great was awesome. And another little reminder that all these are basically building on each other. So there'll be elements of class 2 and class 3 stuff, and elements of class 3 and class 4 stuff, and class 4 and class 5 stuff. So they all build on each other. I'm not adding them all up here because that's going to be one heck of a list, and if I did, it'd be really hard to read as well. So class 5 now. Right off the bat, you're going to be another example setter, another leadership position. And you're basically running the big stuff out there now. You've basically hit the top of the rapid scale as far as a lot of people are concerned. So you are the example setter out there. You are the leader out there. And going along with this is basically the ability to speak out when necessary. So basically, if you see like a safety violation, address it there, and not having that come to a bigger situation later on is a big thing to have. It could be as simple as tidying up your boat for loose straps, or clearly coming up to somebody and saying, hey, this is not not what's going on this trip, let's do something else. And you know, giving feedback could be pulled into this as well. It's hard to give feedback, it's even harder to receive it. I'm always open to feedback myself. It's one of the ways I love to learn is, you know, feedback. What am I doing bad? What am I doing good? You know, give me that stuff. Let me advance that way. Some people might not be really wanting the feedback, but you know, sometimes it has to be said. In those situations, you know, do it in a more friendly manner. You know. Another big one is being in control on Class 4 and can catch any eddies in Class 4. It's one of those spots, like I said, where if they see you doing this and then they know you're basically an experienced boater and they'll look up to you more. And it definitely shows that you have skill in your equipment and your know-how and your skill level when you're doing this stuff. Is if you can do Class 4 calmly and control and catch all those eddies, well, heck, you can hit Class 5 and go from there, I suppose. Hit Class 5 and go from there. I covered this one already, but being a great communicator out there on the river, like I said, you know, giving feedback, giving advice for running rapids, giving kind of advice for setting up boats, you know, all sorts of that stuff. A lot of novices will actually be looking towards you as the leader, like I said, so, you know, giving them advice, both for like anything out there on the river, for like gear, boats, you know, running rapids, maybe rivers they should start on if this other river might be a little too advanced for them. You know, it's just communication out there is a great deal. Going into more equipment is the ability to use any equipment out there on the river. And I'm not just talking about your equipment. In Class 4, you should definitely be a master of your equipment. But in Class 5, you should be able to use any equipment because it is Class 5 stuff. You'll be in situations where, well, who knows what's going to go on. A great example is maybe you're oaring down a river and you know you lose an entire tower off your frame. So here you are running basically an oar lock on one side and a pin and clip on the other side, and you know that's how you finish the trip. So understanding and being able to use both of the different oar setups is a big deal out there on the river. Another big one is being keenly aware of group safety. I find myself doing this a lot myself. It's more of a subconscious thing, but I always like to look around, see where everybody is on the river, see how the clients are doing out there. If we're not with clients, I always like looking around, you know, turning around, watching for the boats behind me, if there's boats behind me, and trying to spot the boats in front of me. In some of those situations, like, well, I hope those guys will slow down a little bit so, you know, we can be in a bit more of a safe environment here. But, you know, being keenly aware of group safety is definitely a big out there. It's definitely a way of staying safe out on the river. Going along with being aware of group safety is being keenly aware of where the medical kit and the mechanical advantage kits are located. Some companies and some groups might have multiple kits per trip out there. I'm going to put it on myself to carry one this entire next summer. So both a medical kit and a mechanical advantage kit. So basically Z-drag, if you want to put it in those terms. I'll be carrying that myself, so I know where that is. I know where to find it in the boat. And might be pointing that out to other guides in case something happens to me or my boat. You know, I might say it's tethered to the left side of my footwell, basically, or something similar to that. Another big one is determining boat order. This is, like I said, you're basically the leader out there. They'll be looking towards you. You know, and in some circumstances too, once you get to the Class 5 position, or once you get a lot of experience out there on the river, you can definitely tell who is more of an advanced boater and who is maybe not as an advanced boater, or who's basically just a novice boater. You'll get kind of a feel to that, and from there you can determine kind of who goes where. I mentioned it before, but usually the more experienced people go in the front and the back. You know, the front runner and the sweeper, and everybody else kind of sits there in the middle, following the front runner going down the river, and you know, being kind of swept along as the sweep boat comes along, kind of right behind you as well. Being able to give good just directions and a good advice when Running rapids is another big one. This kind of goes along with making good decisions when running rapids as well. It's depending on the group you're running with, it can change. Either you got the advanced paddle group, so you could take these crazy lines going through rapids, or you might not have the more advanced group, so you kind of have to be a bit more held back. Help people get down the rapids. It definitely does depend on the structure of the group you're with, but keep that in mind. It also helps with carnage out there on the river as well. Personally, I don't really like getting into spots where I might have a potential boat flip. I don't know if anyone really does. Of course, that differs from boat to boat as well. I do like doing a little bit of surfing out there on the river, but like I said, it depends boat to boat and with the group you got as well. Giving good advice goes into great communication. Sometimes a boater might not be so about running a rapid, and the ability to kind of help them walk through how to run the rapid, how to choose good lines when running a rapid, is definitely a biggie as a Class 5 boater. Sometimes it's more rewarding as well to help and watch a person run a rapid and run it smoothly or cleanly and smoothly, and then it is to run it yourself. It's definitely something I've been into a couple of times, and it is a big hoot once you've seen them run it. Everybody's cheering, hyped up, and because they made it, and it's a good feeling out there. Going along with this is being calm in stressful situations. As the example setter, if they all see you freaking out, do kind of chittery or running around hyped up on adrenaline, and then the entire group kind of reacts to that and goes along with it. So being able to stay calm in situations, it might help if you just take a step back, mentally of course, and then look at the situation and determine what the best outcome or what the best solution to the situation is. It's definitely something that can be hard at times because you do have the adrenaline pumping, but it's a necessary thing out there on the river. It keeps everybody in a calm, kind of more safe situation, and helps people run rapids better as well. This is one that the next one is one that kind of applies to maybe cat boaters or R1, R2 boaters more, and that's the ability to quickly reflip a boat and get back in it. Zach mentions that he found a standard somewhere. It might be the IFR or the International Rafting Federation, IRF, sorry. But I think they have a standard of being able to reflip your boat in 45 seconds, or put a bit more cleanly, the ability to be sitting in your oarman spot, have your boat flip on you, get on top of the boat, reflip it, and then back into your spot within 45 seconds, which sounds incredible. I have never seen that happen. And being able to reflip a boat and get back in it in under a minute is just outstanding. It definitely sounds hard. If I ever get a cat boat, which I really want to get a cat boat actually, it's going to be something I'm going to be practicing, especially if I'm getting into Class 4, Class 5 stuff. Because like I said, you're going to be flipping and getting into situations a lot more than you do in Class 3 and Class 2. Another big one, these are all big ones, I keep on saying that, but another one is being proficient in swiftwater rescue situations. This goes from foot entrapments to live bait scenarios to, rescuing a unconscious swimmer, all that stuff. It definitely takes a bit more to get proficient in there, to get comfortable with that stuff. Fortunately, there are courses out there, the swiftwater rescue courses, that you can take to help you kind of get proficient at these and understand situations and how to use how to do them smoothly and safely. It's definitely a biggie though. It's a way to keep people safe out there on the river. It's a way to help recover equipment, and I don't know if I can stress enough, it is a big thing out there on the river. One of the last things that Zach's put on here as well, and it's kind of a so-so thing. He didn't have it fully on his list, and I want to briefly mention it on mine here, is being not being too judgmental or judgmental at all. There are boaters of all sorts of levels out there. You know, getting along with people, it's a great way to kind of help out on river trips. And if you're too judgmental and you bring it up kind of right to somebody's face, you know, the person might make another mistake as they go down the river, or, you know. So anyway, that's the Class 4 and the Class 5 checklist. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If there's something you'd like to see added or something you'd like to see subtracted, you know, put it down in the comment section below. Maybe we can start a conversation about that. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. Hit that thumbs up too, that'd be a great help for me. And if you guys like what I'm doing here, feel free to subscribe. It'd be a big thing for me. It would show me that you guys like what I'm doing out here, and, you know, give me a bit more support so I can do more of these and put more of this stuff out. So I will catch you guys in the next video, and, you know, as spring comes around, have a good rafting season, or kayak season, or canoe season, whatever you guys do out there on the river. I don't know. Bye.